Youth Football, Ray Power's latest book, and delighted to say he's our guest right the way through till 3 o'clock this afternoon. Ray Houghton and Danny Mills alongside us. So, Ray Houghton, your question.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point, ask the question, Mark, about we talk about coaching. There's a variety of ways to coach, isn't there? It's a bit like you do your driving test, Ray. You pass your driving test, but everyone drives in different ways. And
correct.
I'm just saying, what do you think is the best way to coach kids? Because a friend of mine asked me to go and watch his son coach some youngsters, and he did it by asking questions, and I thought that was the right way to do it rather than telling them what they should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you can imagine a continuum between telling them what to do all the time and going out the other end where you're asking questions and you're provoking learning rather than telling them and hoping it sticks. And do you know what? That would go, okay, you say if you're playing an important Champions League game next week, at some point you'll be told what to do in terms of your defensive setup or set plays or something like that. But if you bring that down to younger players who are learning the game and in the early stages of that, that question and answer process is really, really important. And you can then veer off into other communication skills and the types of questions you ask, and you're reading the room in terms of the answers. So the skill set of a highly effective coach is very, very broad. I would suggest that if your go-to communication style, probably with any group of football players now, is that command one, I think you're a little bit in trouble. There is a place for it. There's no right and wrong necessarily, but I think if that's the only thing you have in your toolbox, I think players just stop listening after a while. I don't know if you guys found that with when you were involved in professional football. I remember Alan Kirbishley a number of years ago talking about Arsene Wenger staying quiet and couldn't believe that he was on the touchline, reasonably quiet compared to others. But I think, again, if you understand that process, if you understand that continuum, you find what's the best fit for you as a coach and your personality, but critically, what's best for the players.
And just on the coaching side of things, Ray, how important are the badges, and when you get to the level of B level, A level, and then your pro license, just how important are they for coaches to go and do these courses?
I think they're key. I really do. I think there's a multitude of ways to learn and develop as a coach that are away from that main pathway as well. But those badges, for me personally, having gone through them, you pick up something all the way through. Even if you think a level one is quite straightforward, it's entry level stuff. It gives you a base level to go on, and it puts you under a little bit of pressure as you go through the badges, because you're being watched, you're being assessed, you're being looked at, and you're being watched and assessed and looked at in front of 30 of your peers as well. So there's a sense of there's a real need to know what you're doing and know what you're talking about. I know there was a kind of a discussion, and there is a discussion amongst some of the ex-pros about the value of them when they've been in the game their whole life. But playing the game and teaching the game there's different skill sets involved, although they do overlap. But I would recommend that whatever stage you are at, looking to get on the next one is one of the first things on the list.
It's delivery, Ray, isn't it? I think that's one of the most important things. Myself and Ray will know an awful lot. Saggers has watched an awful lot of football, in his vast experience of being at all football matches. But having that delivery, how to get that across to players, is the most important thing, and how you do that. And I think that's what I learned. I went into it, and obviously you jump in at a relatively high level in terms of being an ex-player. You can go into that. But suddenly you're thinking, actually, how do you set up a coaching session? How do you deal with this? And then you drop into doing kids. How do you deal with 20 kids running around and balls going all over the shop? It's mayhem at times. And that's what I would say. The age modules, the age-appropriate courses that the FA put on, I think are some of the most vital, because most coaches are going to do this as a hobby or going to do it as, you know, just because they want to help their kids out or whatever it might be, and just do it as voluntary and do it for fun. But you're right, there are so many good resources out there, but it's, as you say, it's important to coach to the level that your players are, not to the level that you want to be.
Yeah, and absolutely. And in those environments, you're with 20, 30 other coaches that are bringing so much to the table as well. You know, there's the old saying that you learn as much in the bar at night as you do in the classroom during the day. And although it's probably not exactly the case, you make contacts, you pick people's brains. They tell you, well, I did this with this group before and it worked really well, or I had a player who was difficult, so we did it that way. And you guess your brain just starts to fire in those environments. And now, if you take that same concept onto a platform like we've got today on Twitter, say, for example, which I'm pretty active on, you almost have a room of those people. Some will watch and listen and not chip in. Others will be quite vocal in terms of what they share. So that there's so much out there. I get this. Football, you know, we all love the professional game, but football in this country and probably around the world is built on those mums and dads and teachers and things like that you speak about, that kind of hold up the bottom of the pyramid to allow that flow through to the top. So I think it's really, really important that we look after that part of the pyramid as well.
Okay, Ray, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment. We've just got to take some breaking news from Russell.